On another exciting entry of Animation Deliberation, we're talking Hulurama. The first half of the revival of Futurama on Hulu has come and gone, and I wanted to hop on and give some quick thoughts on it. Gonna get right into that after some ads that are entirely random and we have no say over whatsoever. Sing along if you know the words. One, two, three, it's time for Animation Deliberation. A conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series. Yeah. All right, welcome into Animation Deliberation, the podcast that takes action animation and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. My name's Scotty St. Clair, and it's just me. Like I said at the top here before the ad break there, just wanted to hop on, give some quick thoughts to the first half of Hulurama, the Hulu Futurama revival, the, I guess, technically season 8 production wise, season 11 as far as air airing goes. But yeah, I just non-spoilery thoughts here. I haven't talked about this show since episode 2, which focused heavily on Kif and Amy. But I really did like this season. I thought it was right up there with some of the best seasons of Futurama. It had all the hallmarks of Futurama in terms of being like this really absurd and dumb, but also surprisingly smart and witty and timely animated series with all the sci-fi flourishes, and they don't waste that at all. So it's just an outstanding cast of characters voiced by some very talented people. So I'm pretty grateful that they were able to get everybody to come back. I know John DiMaggio, who voices Bender, when we were first hearing about this series, the negotiating it required to get him to come back to the role. I guess they kind of lowballed him in terms of what he was going to be compensated, but eventually they were able to get him on board, which I can't imagine what the show would have felt like otherwise. Like, similar show, similar but different show, Rick and Morty, as well as um, Solar Opposites are having to contend with the departure of Justin Roiland currently, with, Solar Opposites taking the approach of just recasting with a new voice and just explaining within the story, having Dan Stevens there. And I think there was talk about doing something similar with Bender, having like a different guest actor kind of come in to voice the role. Because, I mean, there are ways to, work that out in your head canon with it being a robot character. But all right. So now that the somewhat non-spoilery thoughts are out of the way, I will give a quick rundown um, of all the episodes that have aired so far, because we knew that we were going to get a 20 episode season, and the first 10 of those have aired yet, and there are 4 other episodes on the docket that have titles attached to them, but no release dates. Actually, you know what? All 20 episodes have titles for them, but we do not have release dates whatsoever for the final 10 episodes here. But just to run down the titles of the episodes that I didn't cover and give you kind of a brief idea of what they were about. Episode 3 was titled "How the West Was 1010001." Nice binary play on words there. And in this one, Professor Farnsworth is indebted to the robot mafia after losing all his money on Bitcoin. So the Planet Express crew basically heads to this town where they're living in the old west because of cryptocurrency mining. So pretty good episode, not super memorable in the great scheme of things. It kind of gets lost in the shuffle to me. But then we move on to episode 4, titled Parasites Regained. And in this one, the crew realizes that Nibbler's litter box is infested with parasitic worms that are eating his intelligence. So I did think this was one of the really good episodes. We didn't get a ton of Nibbler in this season, but this was definitely his episode. So it also featured the return of the parasitic worms who they plagued Fry back in the past, but I think that was like as early as like maybe season 2, season 3. So definitely a throwback and a callback, and just kind of solidifies this new season, even though it's coming from Hulu. It doesn't miss a beat. It's in line, and having those callbacks and continuity to the previous seasons that aired elsewhere, be it Fox or be it Comedy Central. Uh, Episode 5 was called "Related to Items You Viewed," and in that one, Leela moves in with Fry, making Bender so jealous that he quits Planet Express and moves to work on the moon. in the warehouse of Mamazon, an immense online shopping and delivery company owned by Mom. Yeah, and this one, I think the big, again, standout for me was having the return of a character like Mom and her 3 kids, and, yeah, just, Mom is a classic Futurama villain, so just having, her in the mix, and, it just helped it really feel like a season of Futurama. It didn't really feel so much like as this revival, even though it's been, 10 years since we've seen these characters. It really, I keep saying this particular expression, but it really feels like they just didn't skip a beat. They just passed the baton on, like the 10 years never really happened. Albeit I will say, I'm not going to be super negative on this one because I really did like the season. But if I had to have any quibbles, I will say Billy West, as much as I love him, and the man is doing an insane amount of work with the number of characters he voices: Fry, Professor Farnsworth rather, and Zoidberg, Zap Brannigan as well. Uh, so he's doing, a lot of work and incredible work. I will say, in the 10 years that he has not voiced a lot of these characters, particularly Fry, Zoidberg, and Professor Farnsworth, I did feel the age in his voice just a little bit. It felt like his register was just a little bit deeper, and he had a harder time getting to that higher register. But like I said, total nitpick. The man is insanely talented, and we are fortunate to have him be a part of this show and voice these characters and endear them to us so much. But let's move on here to episode 6. I know what you did I know what you did next Christmas, which was, Futurama's had a number of Christmas episodes, and in the world of Futurama, Santa is not the gift bringing hero that he is in our culture. Robot Santa is not a fun guy, so they definitely had some fun with that. It was kind of a Bender Zoidberg episode, but another point of note for this episode is that it did feature Kwanzaa, and that was actually a posthumous final performance for Coolio, who passed away earlier. So nice to have the tribute to him and have that kind of throwaway character brought back into the fold. All right, episode 7 was Race Against the Vaccine. After coming out of a third COVID lockdown, Earth is beset by a new virus, Explovid 23, that causes is transmitted by rage. Earth is additionally affected by the new pandemic when Omnicronians launch a disinformation campaign to cause Earthlings to fight against one another over vaccine safety, that so they can bet. I mean, this one wears its heart right on its sleeve. Like, Futurama has always been a satire, as pretty much all of the works of Matt Groening. But this one, like, the COVID pandemic that we all experienced, like as a planet and as a society, was just pretty ripe. Futurama's not the first one to kind of take it on or tackle it as the years have kind of gone on. We've seen more and more approaches to kind of adapting that whole situation. But of course, Futurama did it, and it's insanely smart, funny, and kind of what's the word I'm looking for here? It's funny, but it's also a little bittersweet because of the truth that's there. I guess I'm not expressing myself as well as I would like to, but you get the gist there. Definitely a solid episode, and gets points for the cultural and social commentary. Episode 8, Zap gets canceled, and this one again, kind of like referring to the whole cancel culture that our society is dealing with now. Zap is a prime target for that. So Zap is one of my favorite characters. Love to hate him. He's such a buffoon. So to see him have to, navigate a world in which that kind of behavior is not tolerated was pretty great. And of course, Zap manages to fumble his way to upward. He fails upwardly, is what I'm going to say. But uh, you know, uh, I definitely enjoyed that episode. But then we get into the final 2 episodes, is where I really feel like the season came to a head, like figuratively and literally, in terms of quality. Like, these were some really, really standout episodes, and I found myself really enjoying them and looking forward to revisiting them, and they hold a place as some of my favorite episodes of Futurama, not just within this season, but within the series as a whole. So, starting off with episode 9, The Prince and the Product. So, this one was interesting because Futurama in its previous seasons, not every single season, but certainly the later seasons, they have a tendency to do a anthology episode in which you get like 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4 little vignettes and these little side stories where you take the characters from Futurama, but they're basically just the players for these like various different stories they want to tell. It's kind of like American Horror Story, uh, or like the Twilight Zone or something like that, where American Horror Story is the better comparison because you often see the same actors just in different seasons. They portray different characters, and it's the same thing here. The Futurama characters are usually playing versions of themselves, but you know the situations are always pretty crazy. But this one, what makes it unique from previous anthology entries is the fact that it has like a story device that like frames around it, like with the title The Prince and the Product. It's all about like Leela falling in love with this prince of space when they're on a delivery mission, and everything that goes wrong there. But within that story, which I mean, it's pretty short, there's not that much to it, but they make the most of what they do have, especially with the relationship between Leela and Fry, because this is like the first full season that we've really get to see them be a couple, and how Leela just kind of throws that away, seemingly anyway. But we get these little vignettes, and this one they're all based on like products. So you get like a little infomercial or commercial, like jab at the beginning, and then it just goes right into a story that features the characters as whatever product has been advertised. So in one of them, they're all wind up toys, and Fry discovers he's dying due to his clockwork key slowly winding down from his time in the cryogenic freezer. And the next one, it's a world of round wheels cars, and citizens are being murdered not long after reading a text message. So it's kind of like The Ring or something like that. Pretty, I like the way that one ended up going. It's pretty funny. And then in the final one, there are rubber ducks and these like egg weeble egg creatures, and it's basically a star-crossed forbidden love situation, where these rivaling societies kind of are forced to confront each other with the the lovers. But anyway, I just really liked how this one was a solid anthology like we've seen in the past, but it really did something new with having that story, larger story, kind of frame it and provide a reason why we were having this kind of off kilter episode. But moving on from episode 9, we get to episode 10, titled All the Way Down. And again, I just really can't sing the praises of these last 2 episodes enough, but this final episode, especially considering that this is not the season finale or the series finale. Again, we do know that there are more episodes on the way. I thought this was a great way to at least enter this break that we're going to have and leave us all with something to really kind of like chew on intellectually, uh, which some of my favorite episodes of Futurama do. Anyway, in this one, Professor Farnsworth creates a simulation of their universe represented as low-res voxel models, which causes the Planet Express crew to wonder if they are living in a simulation. And again, this is just the concept, and like Futurama again is not the first one to play with this idea of like, are we living in a simulation? Certainly, the Matrix has mined that. Rick and Morty has certainly touched upon it, but just the way they go about it, it's kind of like trippy in a way. Like it seems pretty, definitive, and Professor Farnsworth says as much. Like, no, we're not living in a simulation. We have, these rules that govern our world and all that. And then that's when Amy kind of chimes in, like, that's a lot like the programming of the simulation that you created. And then we just have like, these 3 simulations like happening simultaneously. Pardon the repetition of simul there. Uh, but it gets kind of trippy to that point where you like start to see the lower level simulations like get to that point where they're saying and doing the exact same things that the real quote unquote real world's doing. So it really makes you think about the fact that like Futurama itself is a show, and while it's not necessarily a simulation, it is something that was created and has a framework and a structure. So it really did a good job of kind of like getting me that in that headspace of like questioning like, am I living in a simulation? And like I don't believe that personally to be the case, but I can't really argue definitively one way or another. So I love stuff that just really gets my brain working like that, which like so many great episodes of Futurama do. Uh, all right. So, um, yeah, that kind of, like I said, I wanted to make this one pretty quick, but I encourage those of you that are out there. The reason I did this one solo is just because Futurama is one of my favorite shows, and I was a little impatient. I couldn't wait for Zuhair or my co-host to watch it, which I do not blame them because there's so much content out there to watch. But if you are like me and have been consuming Futurama rapidly or Hulu-rama and have some thoughts, I encourage you, please send an email to animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com, or you can check us out on any social medias. Just search Animation Deliberation. You'll find us. And if you like what we're doing here, like, subscribe, share the show, give us a rating and review. And thank you, as always, for tuning in, and stay whelmed. And that's TOONIN.
Thank you for listening to the Animation Deliberation Podcast, a proud member of the Stranded Panda Network. If you would like to contact us, you can email animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter @animationdelib1. For this and other great shows, you can visit strandedpanda.com or join the great community that is the Stranded Panda Chat Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/svchat. Tune in next time, and remember, stay whelmed.